Do you want to learn how to build your own custom scenery, habitats, and buildings in Planet Zoo? In this tutorial, I'm going to show you all the basics that you need to know to get started, from moving and rotating pieces to working with groups and multi-selecting pieces. So let's dive in. Let's start with the fundamentals, how to place and delete pieces. First of all, you need to find the piece that you want to place. Usually, if you're using modular building, that will be in construction. But what you're going to learn also works for nature, for habitat, basically for any piece that you want to place. Let's choose this African bead shape. When I click on this item, I'm going to be able to place it wherever I want, right? If I click once, I'm going to place it, and I can continue clicking if I want to place the same piece multiple times. But I'm going to undo that with Control C. Control C is the shortcut for undoing something in Planet Zoo. I'm only going to keep one of them. What if I can't undo that and I just want to delete the piece? Well, I simply click on the piece and click here on Demolish, or I use the Delete key. The Delete key on my keyboard will delete the piece. How can you move the piece once you've placed it? Well, if I place the piece and I click on it, I can't move it. I have to use the keyboard shortcut M, or I can go here to this little button, Move. With the shortcut M, you can move the piece as if you were placing it for the first time. It will be automatically aligned to the floor. You can see that it's like aligned to the ground over here. This is like the basic move tool for the pieces. We also have a way to move horizontally or vertically, only horizontally or only vertically. For example, if you want to move it horizontally, you press the Control key, and here you're going to lock the piece to one of the horizontal axes. You can either move it in this direction or in this direction. You'll see the direction with the blue and red arrows. Right now, to lock the axes, I'm pressing the Control key and holding that key. That is for horizontal movement. For vertical movement, I can use the Shift key, like this. This Shift key will allow me to move the piece vertically up or down. You can also sink it below the ground, and that is very common in Planet Zoo for doing basically anything you want with the pieces. You can rotate them, you can sink them into the ground if you need to. That is especially helpful for nature if you want to make the trees look a bit shorter. You can sink them into the ground. Awesome, that is the basic move tool. Now let's go to the advanced move tool. To go to the advanced move tool, you need to go here to advanced move rotate. You click on this button or you use the X keyboard shortcut. This will show you what we call the 3D Gizmo. The 3D Gizmo has 3 axes, the vertical axis and 2 horizontal axes. If you use your mouse and you click on either one of these arrows and I'm holding the left mouse button here, you can drag the piece with much more precision. You can see that it's moving with a lot more precision, vertically as well. And the great thing about this is that they also have like this little like square area, which is a combination of the 2 corresponding axes. So if I want to move the piece here only in these 2 directions, I can press and hold, like click and hold, here in the squared area, and you can see that both arrows are highlighted because it will only move in those 2 directions. Same thing here. Now you can see that it's moving vertically and in the direction of the red arrow. And here I'm going to move it in the direction of the blue arrow and vertically. So it's basically another set of tools that you can use for higher precision. This is always helpful in modular building as you dive deeper into the tools and you get more familiar with them. Now, this is the advanced move tool. So let's see how you can rotate the pieces. To exit this menu, we can click here on this button, cancel, or press escape. And the piece will be back to where it belonged. So now we're going to rotate the piece. How can we actually rotate the piece? Well, there are 2 ways, like move. There is a simple way and an advanced way. The simple way is to press M on your keyboard to move the piece, and then the key C. This will allow you to rotate the piece like this freely around its vertical axis. So you can rotate it very easily like this. Right now I'm holding the key. Only while you hold the key you will be able to rotate the piece. Awesome, that is for basic rotation, but you can see that this is not so precise, right? If you want more precision, you can actually go to the advanced rotation tool. To go to that rotation tool, you must press X once and then twice. This will take you to the advanced rotation tool. This is telling you the different directions in which you can move the piece. This one, the green one, is horizontal in this case. This one is over here in this direction, and this one is in this direction. It's easier for higher precision. And that takes me to another important setting. If we are rotating the piece, notice how we are rotating smoothly, right? Another tool for greater precision is to go here and turn on something that we call angle snap. Angle snap allows you to rotate the piece by a specific number of degrees per move. So let me show you this. Right now we can move it quite smoothly, right? But if we enable this, you can do that with the space bar. Like this, you can see that I'm toggling it with the space bar or by clicking here. And you can choose the angle. You can choose between 15 degrees, 30 degrees, or 45 degrees. To make it more obvious, I'm going to choose 45. Now, if I try to rotate the piece with the C key, you can see that these little green dots tell you where the piece is going to point to next. So it's moving at increments of 45 degrees. Much more precision. You can lower this to 30 degrees and you will have more rotation points. And you can also go down to 15 degrees. This will be similar to the smooth rotation, but a little bit more precise. Angle snap is a lifesaver, especially when rotating pieces, because you can set this to 45, let's say, and then rotate it 90 degrees if you want to. Or you can also use angle snap with the advanced rotation tool. Remember, you press the X key twice, then you can use angle snap to rotate the piece by a set amount of degrees if you have angle snap on, in either one of these directions. So angle snap can be a lifesaver. Now, what if we want to have less precision in our rotation? For example, for nature, when we're placing rocks, which is a huge part of Planet Zoo, nature and making things look natural. Let's say that I want to go here to these rocks. I'm going to choose an irregular one, so you can actually see the difference. Okay, I'm going to place this one, the red desert rock. Okay, let's say that I want to place this and make it look natural. Well, in nature, there is randomness, right? Rocks are not always on the same spot or in the same angle or the same shape. So we can use this tool that we have over here called random rotation. This is a very helpful setting. You have random rotation and you have random rotation all. Random rotation rotates the object randomly on its vertical axis. So let me show you. If I enable this random rotation, I have this enabled, and I place the rock and I place another one, you can see that it is actually being rotated. You can see that the pattern is changing because it is being rotated. Maybe this will be more obvious in a rock that has a more distinct pattern. Let me show you this. This one, which is a little bit more irregular. You can see how it's being rotated, like this. This is helpful for creating more natural looking habitats. For example, let me show you this. This is my favorite, the Aquatifo rock that you can recolor. Let's say that you want to make this a little bit, no, I want this to be a little bit grayish. And I sink it into the ground and I see a few of those rocks, right? But I'm going to sink it. Remember that you can do this with Shift. And you can see that this is being rotated randomly. Now, if you want to keep the height when you are moving the piece vertically, you can use the Shift key to move it vertically and then press the V key, the V of voltage, to keep that height, like this. You press the Shift key and then you press the V key, and that will keep the height constant so you can place new objects at that height. Of course, this one we want it close to the ground, right? But for other objects you may want to keep them raised, and that is how you do it, with the V key. And what if you have this, for example, let's say that I have these rocks elevated, but I want to keep them on the ground. Well, I just press the Shift key once, and that will reset the height to ground level. Shift key once. That is very helpful if you want to have them like aligned on the ground like rocks. Now, we talked about random rotation, but I haven't shown you the random rotation all. So I'm going to do that with this rock, which I think it looks nice to illustrate what we're going to do. I'm going to go here to the rock. I'm going to select it here at the bottom, let's say this one. And I'm going to enable random rotation all. This will rotate the piece a random amount on all axes, so they won't always be lined up to the ground like this. Let me show you. This will rotate it. You can see that this one is a little bit elevated. This one is a little bit different. This one is a little bit different. And they can clip onto the ground because they are being rotated on all axes. So just keep that in mind if this is what you want in your builds. This is random rotation all. It rotates in all the different axes. The other one, random rotation, only rotates them on the vertical axis, so it's like keeping them on ground level or at the same level that they were, but rotating them like around the vertical axis. Awesome. Now I'm going to show you something called align to surface. Align to surface is very helpful when you want to place objects that belong somewhere like on a wall. Let me go here to architecture. I'm going to go to walls and I'm going to place, let's say, an Arctic wall piece like this here. Now, let me find something that should be on a wall. For example, let's say in this African sculpture, or something a little bit smaller because the wall was smaller. This African decorative sign. Well, right now, if I make the sign go a little bit closer to this, you can see that this is snapping to specific points. This is because I have position snap enabled by default. I'm going to disable this for now, and I'm going to show you how this works better in just a moment. I'm going to disable it. But if I disable this, the piece itself is not being rotated to align to the wall. However, if I want to do that, I can turn on align to surface, like this. And now, if I place it close to a wall, it will rotate to align to the surface, and that makes placing objects on the walls a lot easier, trust me. Use this setting whenever you want to decorate a wall, super helpful. And now we go back to position snap. Why? Because this is also helpful, especially for pieces that belong together. An example here is the African hut. The African hut comes as a blueprint, right? But you also get the individual pieces of the hut, like this. You have the base, you have the middle part, and you have the roof. If I try to move this piece to place it on top of the base, you can see that it's not actually snapping anywhere. I can place it here, and it's not going to snap, and it's going to just float in the air. Well, how can I solve this? If I wanted to snap to its correct location, what I can do is I can turn on position snap, like this. And voila, look at the magic. It's snapping to the correct position, like this. Awesome. The same thing with the roof. If I try to move it and I have position snap turned on like this, it's going to snap, and it's going to save me a lot of time because I don't have to be so precise in the location. It's going to snap automatically. Same thing with this setting, position snap rotation. This will rotate the object to align to the rotation of the object being positioned. So it basically is like snapping, but for rotation. Awesome. Now that we talked about this, I also want to talk to you about grid versus non-grid pieces. First of all, what is a non-grid piece or a free moving piece? It's something like this, where you can see the little indicator here, or no indicator at all. You can see like this squared icon here. This is telling you the size of that piece in the set. For example, this one is large, Well, this one is smaller because it only has one little square colored. Now, if it doesn't have any indicators, that also means that it's a freeform or a non-grid piece. You can move that piece freely, you can rotate it, you can move it around vertically, horizontally, you can do basically whatever you want with that piece. However, there are other types of pieces commonly used for constructions like walls, where you will see this little hash icon. This little icon means that the piece is a grid piece. It means that when you place it, you will see something like this, which is like a squared grid, where if you place one of them, you will have access to a grid where you can continue placing other items. This can help you to build faster. Just see how I'm building this over here? Really fast without actually having to be very precise in where I'm locating the walls, where I'm placing the walls. So grid pieces also have their own unique advantages. You should understand their differences. However, grid pieces, they cannot be rotated freely. If you press the C key, you'll notice that you can't rotate them. You can only rotate them by 90 degrees, aligning to the grid. So that is a limitation, but they are also very helpful for building faster. You should understand their differences and know when you need to use each one of them. I have a full video explaining the difference between grid and non-grid pieces on my channel, so if you want to learn more about this, please check it out. I think you may find it helpful. Now, I mentioned duplicating pieces, but I haven't actually shown you how to duplicate a piece, so I'm going to show you that right now. We're gonna make a really tall column here by duplicating this little piece, the African Wooden Sunshades Support Small Straight. This is a very long name, yeah. I'm going to place this over here. And once I have my piece, if I want to duplicate it, I can press Ctrl D, like this. Ctrl D on my keyboard. I highly recommend learning those shortcuts, it will make your life a lot easier. There is also a button in the menu if you want to duplicate it without the shortcuts. You click on the piece, and then you go here to duplicate. It will do exactly the same, but it will be a lot faster if you just use Ctrl D. Now, you can see that it's very easy to duplicate the piece. However, when we do this, we get the same like basic move option for that piece aligned to the ground. What if we want to be more precise in this? If we want more precision when we duplicate the piece, we need to use the advanced duplication tool to duplicate the piece and actually get a 3D gizmo that we can use to be more detailed. For that, we press Ctrl X, like this. Ctrl X. Ctrl D was for the simple one, Ctrl X is for the advanced one. This will duplicate the piece in place, so you won't see it actually being duplicated. You'll only see it when you start moving it. But you can use the 3D gizmo to move it. And this is super helpful for creating something like this, where you need to align the pieces. Now, what happens? Why am I getting something like this in the second duplication? Well, we are having here random rotation on, so we need to turn that off. This is a good example of the normal workflow. Sometimes you may have some settings that are not fitted to what you're doing and you'll need to turn them off. So I'm going to turn them off and I'm going to duplicate the piece again with Ctrl X. Now I move it, and to place it, I click once on the piece to actually confirm the placement. I can also click here on this check mark, build and buy, but clicking on the piece itself is usually quicker because it's closer to the gizmo. And there we go. Here we have our huge giant post made of duplicate pieces. Another cool thing is that we can control the speed of the widget. This can also be helpful if you want to be more detailed. You can find this setting when you enter the Advanced Move tool. In the Advanced Move tool, you'll see Widget Speed Control. Right now, you can move the widget quite fast, I think. But if you want to move it faster, you can change the multiplier, let's say to 2, and it will move a lot faster. The increments will make the piece move a lot more than before. In the opposite, we have 0.4, which would make it move a lot slower. So it's better for precision if you need it. You can keep it at 1 if you just want the default speed. Awesome, and we haven't talked at all right now about water. What if we need to align something to water? Align a piece, let's say that you're building a dock. I'm going to place some calm water here. I have a water tutorial as well on the channel if you want to check it out. If I want to build something on this water, let's say that I want to place the African hut base. Like this one, this sort of looks like a dock, right? So what if I want to place it on the water and align that piece to the water? Well, I can turn this setting on, align to water. This will align it to the surface of the water like this. You can see that it's perfectly aligned to the surface on its base. You can also, of course, use Shift to move it up or down, but by default, it will be aligned to the surface of the water. And now we've come to the final category of basic things that you should know from this tutorial: groups. So let me remove the water. I'm going to undo all of this so we don't have the giant hole there. And I'm going to demolish these pieces. Now we're going to talk about groups. Oh, actually, to talk about groups, I'm going to keep this pillar that we just built by duplicating the pieces, right? Okay, first of all, before we talk about groups, I'm going to talk about multi-select. To create a group, you're going to need to... Groups are helpful because they allow you to do exactly that, group multiple pieces together, so you can move them or work with them as if they were one. So here we have multiple pieces that we duplicated and we want to move them together, let's say. Well, first of all, we need to multi-select. We need to select them all. To do that, we press I on our keyboards or we go here to multi-selection. Then we click on the left mouse button and we drag until we cover all the pieces that we want to select. And that is the multi-selection tool, basically, essentially. You can also add items to the selection. You can also recolor the items in the selection, or you can also clear the selection with these options over here. However, we do want to keep the selection because we're going to create a group. To create a group, we go here to merge scenery into group. And voila, now we have our group. By default, your group will have a name, and you can customize that, don't worry. We're going to exit the multi-select tool by pressing I, and now if we click on the group, you can see that the entire set of pieces is highlighted. That's awesome, right? So now if we move it with M, we can move all the pieces like one, as if they were one. You can also rename the group over here, and that is helpful in case you have, for example, a building and you want to group all the pieces and give the building a name, just for your reference. Let's say my group, or even better, tutorial group. Awesome. So now that we have the group, what can we do with the group? Well, we can edit the group by double-clicking on the group, and then we can choose the individual pieces. But right now we are in the edit mode for the groups. You will see this orange outline over here when you're editing a group, and you will see this editing tutorial group or the name that you assign to the group. To exit that mode, you click here on exit, like this. If you want to enter that mode again, you double-click on the group and you're back in. Now, how can you add pieces to the group? The easiest way is to go into this mode to edit the group, and then you can, let's say that we want to make the pillar a little bit taller. Well, I can duplicate the piece, extend it, and since I was already in the group editing mode, that piece will already be part of the group. Like you can see over here, it was already added to the group. It is a common mistake that we all make when we build at some point, to add the pieces outside of this group editing mode. And that is, well, this can save you a lot of time, just to let you know, because otherwise you will need to select all the new pieces, group them again, and yeah, just doing this from the editing group mode is a lot quicker. Awesome. Now, what if we want to create two pillars from this one? Let's say that I don't want these three pieces to be in the group anymore. I'm going to select the pieces, and another way to select multiple pieces, just so you know, is to use the Shift key. You press the first piece that you want to select, and then by holding the Shift key, you can select them more precisely than with the multi-select tool, because the multi-select tool is it's like dragging and selecting everything in that area. But if you want to be more precise, you can use the Shift key and actually click on the pieces that you want to select. I usually use the Shift approach. So if I want to split this from the group, let's say I want to make this a different pillar, I can select the pieces and click here, a split selection from group. Now you can see that these are two separate groups. They have different names, they have different sets, because you can edit them individually. So, to prove you that they are not together anymore, I'm going to move it like this. If I want to actually split everything from the group and just have the individual pieces again, I can select the group and choose this option, Split Group. And now, if I click on the pieces, they are individual pieces again, no more group here. I can also duplicate groups, for example with Ctrl D, I can duplicate this group and it will be a group itself that I can edit, which is super helpful for saving you time if you build something and you want to create a clone of it. And I can also use the advanced duplication tool on groups, so I can have the group but with more control on where I place it, with Ctrl X. And that covers all the fundamentals for this Planet Zoo building tutorial for beginners. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. And please let me know in your comments which one of these techniques is your favorite. Do you use these techniques? And did you learn something from the tutorial? I hope you found it helpful. Thank you very much, I appreciate your thoughts, and see you in the next video. Remember that I have on the channel a tutorial for working with water, a tutorial for grid and non-grid pieces, and other Planet Zoo related tutorials. Planet Zoo is my favorite game ever, so if you like Planet Zoo as well, consider subscribing to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. Have an awesome day and see you in the next video.